I got over 30,000 views within my first month on YouTube, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I had zero prior YouTube experience. The first ever video I posted is on 17,000 views, and I want to share what I think led to these crazy results. I still use the exact same thumbnail style, and I do all of my editing myself within less than a day without the help of a video editor. As per your request, I'm sharing my exact step-by-step process that you can easily follow even if you don't have any experience for how I got to this result. From deciding what to post, which arguably is the most important step, to how I edit my videos and how I include things like motion graphics. Without motion graphic skills, we're gonna cover everything today. And make sure you watch till the end because I'm sharing one tip by Justin Brown, who has 2 million subscribers on YouTube, that completely changed the way I looked at YouTube and that I attribute most of my early success to. Step 1 is gonna be deciding what you make videos about. I make videos as part of Tel's channel, which is a brand channel. However, I avoid making videos about our product because they would do something like this. People on YouTube don't want to be sold. People who watch videos on YouTube are either trying to be entertained, which is a much harder game to win, or they're trying to solve a problem. And that's what you're gonna have to keep in the back of your mind at all costs. So how do you uncover what those problems are? I know a lot about our audience being a marketer at Tela. They are small business owners, they're probably tech savvy, they're not the most technical either because people who use screen recorders are either gonna be in sales or marketing, and they're not going to be full-on engineers. So I decided to make videos on how to use AI in marketing, which is their likely niche, even if they're founders, and make it friendly for non-engineers. So that's the niche that I carved out. Decide what your audience's problems are and make videos to solve those. If you're an online butcher and you sell delivery meat, well, then you should think of what problems your audience is having, and they might have to do with health, they might have to do with keeping a good routine, or even cooking recipes, right? So you want to make videos related to that and not just peddling your product. Once you've decided what your audience might be interested in and what their problems are, you're going to do something called trend jacking. And that's exactly how I think my first video did so well on remotion. I basically look every single week on X what is trending, and I decide to make a video about it or not within a few days or max 2 weeks. For example, this video on Claude for marketing was basically on a viral tweet by the Anthropic team, having only a one-person team and their exact workflow for running ads Anthropic. So this was the workflow for that. I will say that this strategy isn't new and it's quite high competition. So there's a lot of people doing exactly the same thing, but you could do it in your niche as well. So to take that online butcher example, if there's a new study that comes out or something's trending, some controversy's trending where someone's saying you should stop eating meat or you should only eat meat, well, you might want to jump on that quicker rather than later to just bring your POV as well as useful steps to take there. Number 1, you've identified your audience and what content you want to make. And number 2, you've identified a trend that you want to make a video about or some viral moment. The third step is you're going to go to a tool called vidIQ and you're going to look up the keyword volume for each of these trends. So anything to do with it, basically. So in my case, let's do remotion because that's a good example, I think. When I looked up this keyword a few months ago, I think the search volume was at about 200,000 a month and the competition was low. Now we can see that it's at 1.4 million a month and the competition's gone up to medium. So this might not be the best time to make a video about remotion anymore. However, if you went for remotion Claude code, you can already see the search volume going down and the competition being lower as well. So what we want to do in vidIQ, just pay the subscription, it's about 14 euros a month, I think, is we want to look up whether or not keywords have higher than 100K in search volume, and then we want to go for low competition. You're free to try to compete on high competition keywords, especially if the search volume is huge. Then there's just a lot more people looking for it and there's still some space, but the competition is going to be higher. So this is my little secret here. I do keyword research. Remember, you're not just ranking for YouTube search or your YouTube algorithm to show your videos to subscribers, etc. You're also ranking for external traffic, and that includes Google as well as ChatGPT. I'll show you another important tip on here. When you found a trend and you want to find the matching keyword, let's say I wanted to do a video on hyperframes, which is a tool by HeyGen. So you can see that the search volume is going higher and higher. I actually saw this 2 weeks ago and it was at about 100K. However, if you go HeyGen, which is the company that owns Hyperframes, the search volume is much higher, the competition slightly higher as well. But you might want to just experiment with, okay, which keywords are going to be related, people are going to understand context, but aren't going to be as competitive. So just make sure you look at adjacent keywords as well. Last note on deciding what to make your video about is going to be how long should your video be. So you can see a lot of my videos are at least longer than 15 minutes, some are 20 minutes, and they did really well as well. I think you should not be afraid of making long form videos. YouTube is a platform for it. Now let's get into my actual creation process. It's pretty simple. I look at tools or workflows. So what I need to do is for a few days at least use the tool. And sometimes it goes on for a few weeks, like the one I made about OpenClaw, where I actually used OpenClaw for 2 or 3 weeks before I made a video about it. So my process really is documenting exactly what I'm doing. And then I use Claude to turn that into somewhat of a script. You may or may not be surprised that I don't use a script in my videos. I can't focus on it, but I do use a script for my introduction. I think one big thing that has contributed to these results is that I make my introductions very short. People want to solve problems when they come to YouTube or when they're doing Google search. Remember of all the times that you've skipped the intro just to get to your answer. This isn't going to come as a surprise, but when it comes to recording and editing my videos, I obviously use Tela to do this. So we're a free screen recorder that has a bunch of cool layouts that I think look really good for YouTube. We have some people that have grown their channel just making YouTube videos. So it's entirely possible to record and edit your videos in Tela and grow your channel. There's no need for external video editors, take it from me. I'm not going to get into the entire editing process. There's going to be more videos for that. But just to show you here that we let you pick layout, go like this, we could go full screen, we can go bubble. We let you add zooms at different points of your screen sharing, which is really cool. And my favorite feature is the find mistakes feature, as well as the removing silences. This saves me, I think, days of editing because it just removes all of the silences that you wouldn't want there, as well as the filler words. That's just how I keep my editing to less than a day. And I say this including motion graphics as well, which are the most time-consuming part of this whole process. And yes, I even add music within Tela. So all of my editing has gone to Tela, where previously I used to use tools like CapCut as well. That's just completely been removed from a process. Once I'm done editing, I do something that I don't think many people know about, and it's that on the view page, I go to my transcript, I copy my transcript, then I ask Claude to find relevant moments in my transcript that could benefit from a motion graphic. This was a video I did on Claude Design, and it immediately found some moments that would benefit from motion graphics, which I think have really elevated my videos and that are now super easy to do. So just watch my video on remotion in Claude that I'm going to link up here to know how to do this, but I'll show you another step that you need once you're running remotion to actually generate motion graphics that match your exact timestamps as well. We're going to run remotion, and while that's running, we're actually going to download for this video the subtitles only in this type of file, because our subtitles contain the actual timestamp. Okay, remotion's running. So let's create a motion graphic for the Figma price stock crashing. So then I say to make the motion graphic in remotion match the timestamps, and I'm gonna give it the actual timestamps from our subtitles. So here we can see it identified the exact timestamp as where I say the Figma stock price crashed, and now it's going to make that motion graphic. Cool, so it says it made the motion graphic. Let's go find it, and I'm going to show you how to add it to your Tela videos as B-roll, which is really going to elevate your YouTube videos without the help of a motion graphic designer. Cool, let's play this. All right, so here we see the stock market crash. We're just going to render this. I could go ahead and make amendments just to make this match our brand a bit more, but let's just go ahead and grab this end product and add it to my video. It said that where I talk about the crash is at about 4 seconds, so somewhere here. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to layouts. So to add the motion graphic as B-roll, I just need to add a layout, and then we're going to turn that into B-roll. Here we can see we can actually change my face as well, so we can have that in the square, etc. Cool. So let's find this file now, and we're going to add it here. You can actually see in the sidebar in the script editor that we're talking about the Figma crash. Be sure to match up the length of the B-roll, and then we're gonna see the results. Crashing Figma stock, and I'll tell you why. I'll show you another example where I used Tella's B-roll feature to add motion animations like this one. This is just B-roll, and I think it works really well because it shows a whole process as you're talking, which can sometimes be a bit difficult to follow. Here's another moment where I added. Number one is we're gonna need a messaging document, a manifesto, anything product marketing that you can use to generate ad headlines using a Claude agent. So number two, Claude. So you know, I didn't check what the exact timestamps were for this. I just asked Claude to look at my transcript and pick the duration and exactly when each element had to come into the motion graphic, and then I just added that as B-roll. So super simple. So that's kind of where most of my editing time goes nowadays, where I just look at spots to make my videos a bit more appealing using motion graphics. We're almost at the end of my creation process, but I have gotten a lot of compliments on my thumbnails. Unfortunately, my thumbnails follow the exact structure I used for my very first thumbnail that did well, and you shouldn't change a winning team. So that's exactly what I did. I will show you how I create these, and maybe you can draw some inspiration there. I personally don't think you should be using AI generated versions of your face at all. I haven't tried and tested that, so if that works for you, great. But I always use a screenshot from my actual video. So I actually go into a video and then let's say, okay, this is a bad example, but I'll just take this and then I'll take an actual screenshot. And then I'll add a page. I'll grab that. Terrible example. So I'll grab that image. Then I copy and paste the image. So I have two versions, and then the one that's laying on top, I just remove the background, and then I actually treat the background image and I reduce the brightness. So you can already see I'm popping out a bit more here. I add some blur, and then I can also treat my own image here. I can make myself brighter or not. This isn't a great example of what screenshot I would probably use, but yeah, this is how I treat my thumbnails. So you can use tools like Figma or Adobe to do this. Adobe is great for just removing backgrounds, in my opinion. If we want to look at the text on my more successful thumbnails, here I have a job to be done. So animate videos, hooks database, pro animations, scaling ads. There's some science to thumbnails, but really what I look at is I just wanted to add extra context to my titles, and I wanted to have some sort of an outcome. So either a problem solved or something people aspire to. So something like pro animations is something that sounds pretty interesting to watch. On to our last step of this video creation process is finding a good title for your video, and this might be one of the most important steps, as well as your thumbnail design. I actually use vidIQ to come up with my thumbnails as well, just because I want to get the return on my subscription. Tell it to find a good title, and I tend to also say which keyword I want to target. And I'm not too picky. Whatever the winning title vidIQ gives me is the one I'm going to use. It actually explains why it likes certain options. So you can see here there's an I statement, which is very common on YouTube and does pretty well. Anything that does pretty well on YouTube, be wary of, because it's a playbook that could just be overused and at some point stop working. So always iterate and find what works best for you to grab people's attention. But here it basically explains what the keyword strategy is, as well as why it would go with certain titles. For me, this has worked. I didn't use this in my first few videos, but just give this a try if you don't know what title to give your videos. That was it for my entire creation process. I'm going to give you one secret that Justin Brown gave me that changed my entire perspective on YouTube. The one tip that Justin gave me, he actually shared how in the first 6 months of his YouTube channel, mind you, he has 2 million subscribers now, he got to about 49 subscribers. 6 months on YouTube, 49 subscribers. And then he shared what he did to change this around.
To give you an example, when it wasn't working, this is where my screen where was I pulling this back to? When it wasn't working, we were 6 months in, we had 49 subscribers. So 6 months is a long time to be grinding, putting a video a week, and I only have 49 subscribers. And I was creating random videos I thought people wanted. If they could find this tip, this video editing tip, this is going to change people's lives. It's going to make it so much easier for them. But people aren't searching or typing in the tip. They don't know what that is. they've got a bigger, broader problem. They're over here searching for a problem. I have this problem. How do I fix this? Whatever. And I'm here going, this is the answer, but there's no bridge between them. So it was about taking a step back and saying, all right, we need to line up with what people are typing in. So at that point, we're like, we need to figure this out. And that's where we really started treating it as a search engine tool that we could reverse engineer and try and test off.
Basically, what he's saying here is that people need to have some sort of bridge between what they're searching and what your video provides as a solution. And I think that this is exactly how to think about YouTube. Think of keyword volumes, but also think about the mindset they're in whenever they're searching something and what your video actually provides. And that is also why I don't believe in making videos exclusively about your product, because your product might be the solution to their problem, but that's not how they're framing it in their minds. So say you're a screen recording tool, the issue they might be having is not which screen recording tool should I use, although that might do well as well, but it might be something about how do I grow on LinkedIn with video in 2026? Like, what are the latest hacks, or what are some key people to follow to know how to crack video on X or on LinkedIn? And that's actually where you want to come in with the answer, as well as provide a solution, something like a screen recorder. Thanks for watching my step-by-step walkthrough of how I got to over 30,000 views within my first month on YouTube, having zero prior YouTube experience, having some camera experience. But I really think anyone can do this if you follow these steps. Again, try to carve out your own niche and bring some sort of originality, but in a time of AI slop, I think there's huge opportunity to be making videos on here. So let me know which tip helped you the most, and don't forget to subscribe, because I'm going to be sharing a lot more on this, as well as how I use AI to do marketing at Tela, as well as how I use Tela to make my videos. So if you like that, I'll see you in the next video.